VCT Americas just had a weekend full of games that were very lopsided. So after all those blowouts, it's time to rank these teams once again. For those that don't know, I do weekly power rankings for the VCT Americas League, moving teams up and down continuously based off of their performance. And this week was a very tough one to put my rankings in order, but I did the best I could, so let's jump right into it. So this is the board we have today. We start from number 12, and that means we are starting with Furia. The most obvious number 12 that you could possibly conceive, this team looking very bad in their first two games of the stage, being one of the only teams in VCT Americas to ever get 13-0'd, this time at the hands of Sentinels, and they didn't do very well on the other map either. Winning 4 rounds total in that entire match versus Sentinels, all of them on map 1, just a complete unmitigated disaster for this team. So they've been at the number 12 spot for quite some time now, and I don't see them going up any further. They haven't won a game all year aside from that very first game at kickoff, which was a sub roster. So they stay at number 12, no surprise there, let's not waste time. Moving on to number 11, same spot as last week as well, we have 2-game. So 2-game play against G2, and they have a decent map 1 where they kept that first half very close. It ended up being 6-6 at the half, but then G2 said enough is enough and took over the game. So not a bad game to lose. Every team in the Americas has lost to G2 this year, so it is a very expected result, but I can't move them up based off of an okay performance in that first map. Spike is definitely having some growing pains right now. He's not the reason why they've lost or anything. He's had some really good maps, but he hasn't looked super stellar all the time. I do see some potential in this 2-game roster, but I'm not super confident in it, and they remain at the number 11 spot, which they've been at for quite some time. The only reason why they're not at number 12 is because Furia has been absolutely terrible. Moving on to the number 10 spot, our biggest mover down from last week, MIBR. I can't think of another time aside from maybe Energy in 2024 that I've been this disappointed in a team's performance. This team's fall off has been incredibly frustrating to watch. This is a team that had the 3rd spot of the Americas basically locked down for the entire year, getting 3rd at kickoff, 3rd in stage 1, they went to Toronto, and then everything falls apart. At this point, it doesn't even seem like the meta change is what is screwing everything up for them. That is definitely a part of it. They have not adapted well, but they clearly have internal issues, which is just awful to see. We now have the IGL switching from Artson to Verno, and that went terribly this weekend against Leviatan. So do they go back to Artson, or do you give Verno another try? Whatever the solution is, you have to figure it out quick, because they're already 0-2. They have to at minimum get 2 wins to be able to make it into playoffs, and even then is not guaranteed, because you could end up being tied with a 2-3 record with another team, and then what if you lost the head-to-head matchup there? There's too many variables that could go wrong for them if they don't turn things around right now. Usually I don't punish teams as much as how I have punished MIBR on these power rankings. I try not to drop teams more than 3 spots if they have a bad loss, because I think, things can go wrong, teams can have a bad week. But for MIBR at this point, this is a trend. This team has not looked good in almost 2 months now, and that is incredibly concerning considering the talent that they have on that roster, and I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to bounce back. I really hope I'm wrong about that, but right now it just looks like in complete disarray. Moving on to the number 9 spot, we have a team moving down 1 spot from last week, and that is Loud. So Loud had a pretty close win against Leviatan in their opening week, and then they fall back down to earth against Energy, a team that was below them on the power rankings. They have since moved up now, but because they got kind of dominated during that game, I had to put them down with the other Brazilian teams. This is not me trying to slight Brazil, but every single Brazilian team right now just does not look very good, and Loud is one of them. I know there was faith after that Leviatan win, but I was thinking, these are 2 teams that just made roster changes. They both don't know each other that well. So let's wait until their second game to see what Loud really have in store. And then they get dominated by Energy. It wasn't a complete wash, but definitely a dominant win on the side of Energy. So that is a bit concerning when it comes to Loud. This team looked like they were turning things around. They had a good start to the stage. Things were feeling good, but then that game happened. So we'll see if they can bounce back next week. They are playing against Crew next, so we'll see which team comes up on top there. Both teams looking for a bounce back game, but I don't really like Loud's chances overall. I was not super excited with them after that Leviatan game because I was thinking it's just 1 game, let's see if they could build off of that, and so far they haven't. Moving on to the number 8 spot, we have Energy. Moving up 2 spots from where they were last week, they jump up from number 10, and it is deserved. Energy had a really good game, Mata was looking great, Scuba had a good game, a lot of things went Energy's way this week. I do want to see how they do against a higher caliber opponent. We did see them against 100 Thieves, which didn't go go well for them, but they seem to have bounced back pretty well from that. As long as this team can stay composed, not put too much pressure on themselves, and just play to have fun, maybe this team can do something. Expectations for this team, for me at least, are not very high. I know they did well at Esports World Cup. Now they have a pretty good win over Loud, but I just want this team to have steady improvement internally instead of having the mindset of, oh no, we need to make champs unless everything's going to fall apart, like previous energy rosters. So I'm holding my horses when it comes to that and just hoping they have a good split and whatever happens, happens. Their game this weekend is against Leviatan, so that's going to be a pretty interesting matchup. We'll see which team comes out on top. Moving on to the number 7 spot, moving down 2 spots from where they were the week before, we have Evil Geniuses. EG had a pretty rough game versus C9. They were 2 pretty close maps, but they had a lead in map 2, and map 1 was Lotus, a map that they've been very dominant on this year. That was their best map, but we saw them lose pretty tactically to C9, and then they had that lead on Haven after a very impressive tag side that was really boring to watch because they basically just did the Fnatic strat of just wait until the last 30 seconds of the round. But it did work for them, but then their defense side was pretty bad. They had a 9-4 lead, they completely blow that and then lose before even trying to get it to overtime. So while I was thinking about just dropping them down 1 spot and having C9 switch spots with them, I thought because of that blown lead, I'm going to knock them down a little bit more. EG is going to be a very interesting team to watch this split. They are playing against G2 this week. Obviously G2 are the favorite team there, but EG almost beat them in Stage 1 playoffs, and they are without Leaf unless he comes back, which I don't think he's going to right now. So maybe this is EG's chance to steal one out from under them, but we will see how that goes. Moving on to the number 6 spot, moving up 1 spot from where they were last week, we have C9. So C9, as I already talked about, had that solid comeback on Haven against Evil Geniuses. I definitely didn't like what I saw on the defensive side when it came to C9. They just looked like they just could not solve the puzzle that was EG just waiting until the last 30 seconds. C9 just basically letting them have A side and then having not very good retakes. But they still stole that map from Evil Geniuses. They recovered on their attack side. It worked out for them. So I can't fault them for that too much. So while I don't have a ton of faith in C9, as I think is justified, they are looking pretty good this stage. Do I think that they're a top 5 team? They might be able to get there. But right now I feel like number 6, I'm not gonna jump them up too much for a match that they did almost lose. At least they almost lost map 2, but hey, they end up moving up, so all is well for them for now. They are up against Sentinels this weekend, so that's going to be an interesting matchup. I definitely would take Sentinels in that matchup though, so we'll see if C9 can get the upset. Moving on to number 5, we have our biggest mover up, moving up 4 spots from where they were last week. Leviatan looked pretty good. I was very impressed with what I saw from Leviatan. While MIBR were playing quite terrible during that match, a lot of that happened because Leviatan were putting them in very uncomfortable positions. While there were a lot of rounds that MIBR threw on Sunset, there were a lot of rounds that Leviatan just clearly had the proper game plan, and it worked out in their favor swimmingly. Sato looks like a godsend for this team. They finally have their duelist position figured out, and it looks quite good. Kane back on a role he's comfortable with, looks like he's insane right now, especially on that Sunset map. Just had a absolutely fire map there. He's looking great. Calm and Tex having bounced back stages from what they had in Stage 1, and Okeanos looking like another good addition. So a lot of good things going for Leviatan right now. We'll see if they can lock down playoff spot. That loss against Loud might end up screwing them later on, but for now all they can do is move forward. They are up against Energy this weekend, but I think Leviatan is the hotter team, so we will see how that one goes. I really don't know which way that's going to go. Moving on to the number 4 spot, moving down 1 spot from where they were last week, we have Crew. So Crew is a team that I could have knocked down further, but because there were just so many blowouts this weekend, I had to let a couple teams off the hook. I only dropped Loud down 1 spot, and I only dropped Crew down 1 spot. So in terms of the losers, I thought that was fair for those 2 teams. The rest I felt like I could move down further, but Crew, I'm not going to get too mad at them for that loss against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves has looked incredible this stage so far, and this game was a prime example. Crew had a decent first half on Corrode, but then completely fell apart in the second, and the second map did not go very well for them either. So definitely an indictment on Crew there. You would hope that they would look a lot better against 100 Thieves and that game would be closer, but I'm not going to fault them too much for it. This is something I could see them bouncing back from. They are up against Loud next, so I think that's a prime example of a bounce back game for them, but they're going to have to bring their A game because Loud, even though they are pretty low on the power rankings, are still better than where they were in Stage 1, so it's not a free win for Crew whatsoever. Crew have to work hard for that one. Dante Deos had a pretty good game, at least he was their best performer, but you're still going to want want more from the veterans there. I definitely have concerns about this team, especially with their IGL position after dropping Adverso, but hey, Crew has made the most out of a sticky situation before, so we'll see how far they can take it. Moving on to the number 3 spot, moving up 1 spot from where they were last week. 100 Thieves. The addition of Kess seems like a godsend for this team. While he wasn't the best performer in that game versus Crew, he was a crucial part of that win. And with him coming in, it seems like their roles make a lot more sense. Xander as the IGL might have been what they should have gone with at the beginning of the year, but it's working for them right now. They had a fantastic attack side on Corrode, looking like one of the best teams on that map. Maybe they contest Sentinels for, maybe best in Americas on that map. We will see. But they dominated a Crew team that everybody has high expectations for, so I definitely like where this team is going right now. I like their roles. Their map pool looks a lot better now. That was one of the main issues that the previous roster had in Stage 1. They just didn't really have a map that they were dominating on, and their win percentage on maps was a pretty shallow pool overall. So now they are looking better, and if you have a deep map pool, then that can take you far away. If teams can't counterpick you on maps as easily, that is a very good thing to have. So we'll see if they can continue this hot streak. They are playing against MIBR next. I'm definitely favoring 100 Thieves for that one. But hey, MIBR have been good before, so if they're looking for that bounce back, 100 Thieves is going to have to be careful. Either way, the team looks really good right now. I'm excited to see how far they can take it. Also, shout out Asana for having a solid game. Been wanting more from him lately, and he looks good. Moving on to the number 2 spot, no change from last week, we have G2. G2, I've said in previous Power Rankings videos, there's not really much reason to move them down. There's not much reason to move them up. They have Baby Bay right now. He had a better game versus 2 game than he did against Sentinels, which is to be expected. They still looked like a really solid team even with him as the sub, and they made quick work of an easy opponent. At this point, this stage just does not matter for them. They just have to focus on trying some new creative things, trying some new comps, which they are doing. Maybe not as much as I would have liked. I do want to see some double duelists, but that's probably going to be a thing of when Leaf comes back. At least that's what I would hope to see, because I do think this team would be good at double duelists if they tried, even though I feel like the way that their comps have structured this year aren't really like that and are more slow and methodical versus double duels, which is a lot more chaotic and fast, but we'll see if they give it a shot. I think they should at least try it, but this is a time for G2 to just experiment, have Baby Bay keep the vibes up, and so far so good for G2. Any loss that happens for them, it's not really going to matter. And moving on to the number 1 spot, no change from last week as well, we have Sentinels. So right now it is looking like Sentinels are the front runners to win the entire stage. Even though they don't need too many more wins to be able to qualify for champions, I think they're focused on being in prime form at the end of this tournament. I think they want to be the number 1 seed in Americas, even though that doesn't really matter too much at champions, but they want to be locked in as the dominant force in Americas, and this is the perfect time for them to do it. They look fantastic. They made incredibly quick work of Furia, just an absolute demolishing of them, so no questions of an upset at any point during that match, and they just look really good right now. I think this team has a lot of good things going for them. Narrate's hitting, Zekin's hitting, Celsius is hitting, John QT is hitting, Bane is hitting, everybody is shooting very well right now, so don't really have any concerns about them, so they remain at the number 1 spot. So that is all I have to talk about today for the VCT Americas Power Rankings Stage 2 Week 2 2025. Please let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of my rankings? Where would you have each of these teams? Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.